Hello everyone, welcome back. I got some really good ones for you today on this Friday, February 6th, 2026. Or should I say really bad ones, really dark ones, because for this video, guys, we're going to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein and the pedo power elite, okay? So you might want to don your spiritual armor for this one, or bring a barf bag, or just skip this video altogether, because it's going to get dark, guys. It's going to get real dark, and we're going to go out there with this video. We're going to go way out, but I did want to give you guys my framework for what's going on with the Epstein fiasco. Okay, I look at it like a rotten onion with multiple layers, and you have to peel back these nasty, nasty, rancid layers to get to the core. And spoiler alert, guys, Satan is at the core of this rotten onion. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, rulers of darkness of this world, spiritual wickedness in high places. That's Ephesians 6:12. But you, dear children, are from God and have overcome them, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. That's 1 John 4:4. But, spoiler alert, it's Satan and his minions at the core of this rotten onion. But we're just going to start from the outside and we're going to whittle our way down, okay? But I do believe, guys, this totally has a spiritual root. When we think about medicine, in this secular world, we acknowledge that there's like a physical root to ailment and a mental root to ailment, but we're weird about addressing the spiritual root of things. But guys, I see the spiritual root in everything, okay? So it's going to be impossible for me to peel back the layers of this nasty onion without addressing spiritual warfare, all right? So it gets weird, but let's start with the outermost layer, the tinfoil meta layer, as I call it. This is like the nasty tin foil that's wrapped up in this gnarly onion. So before we can even start peeling back the layers of the onion, we have to talk about the tinfoil meta layer. And that's that Epstein functions as a self-sustaining meme and political weapon. It fuels distrust across the spectrum. The left sees elite impunity and cover-ups. Right sees deep state protection for certain figures. This spawns endless spin-offs, QAnon adjacent, Pizzagate adjacent, which Pizzagate is totally back on the table, but it keeps people chasing shadows and infighting. File releases often breed more theories than closure, unverified claims, partial drops, political finger pointing. So the outer layer, the tinfoil meta layer, it kind of polarizes, monetizes outrage, and makes unified accountability harder by drowning signal in noise. So that's like the rancid off-gassing, the tin foil that's wrapped up this rotten onion. But let's get to the outer shell of this onion, the surface facts, the most visible. Epstein was a convicted pedophile and sex trafficker who groomed and pimped underage girls to wealthy, powerful elites for exploitation, favors, and influence. That's kind of the consensus, the outer layer we can all see and agree on. But then we move into layer 2, the enabler network, mysterious wealth, elite connections, Trump, Clinton, Gates, Wexner, Prince Andrew. This systemic operation via private properties, private islands, private planes. Then we have layer 3, the blackmail operation, the honeypot with recordings giving them leverage over politicians, business leaders, academics, and media figures. So if Epstein can lure in these media figures and then film them doing like diabolical things, he can use that against them later. There's like this blackmail operation layer to the gnarly rotten onion. Then we have layer 4, the intelligence aspect. Ties to Mossad, CIA, MI6, KGB. Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was in Mossad, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, go ahead and look that up, but I think we can confirm that. We also had Acosta a few years ago saying, leave the Epstein thing alone, he's intelligence. So CIA, I think CIA and Mossad's fingerprints are all over this thing. And I don't know if they're the masterminds of the operation, like they're the ones sponsoring it, like it's a state-sponsored intelligence gathering mechanism, and Jeffrey Epstein's just the face, or if it's one of those things that Jeffrey Epstein's just kind of like a mercenary for hire, and if it suits him, he'll sell information to MI6 or CIA or Mossad, maybe with like the, the condition that when all this comes back to bite Epstein, they cover for him, which we're getting a little bit of that going on too, because guys, we're 10, 20 years into this thing, and the FBI is still redacting the names of the billionaire perpetrators and their faces, redacting those, but releasing the names of the victims, like diabolical, which kind of brings me to the next layer, the money laundering, guys. There's money laundering going on, okay? So last night, as I'm combing through the Epstein files, I find invoices for archaic bronze urns and wine vessels and things like that. And my first thought was like, I know what that is. That's for the occult rituals. Like, you know, they need these like weird, expensive urns to like put preteen blood in and then do their little spell and then, you know, torture the kid and extract his adrenochrome and then do that as some sort of designer drug, like some weird occult stuff. But it's also just good old-fashioned money laundering through art, you guys. So millions and millions of dollars just being laundered through art. You have these billionaires, right, that they're trying to reduce their tax liability. Like when you become a billionaire, like 40% of the game becomes about just taxes. So they're trying to clean that money, and they turn to Jeffrey Epstein to help them do that. Then we have layer 6, the transnational hybrid network, public-private deep state machine ensuring impunity. Kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. Sweetheart deals, death anomalies, multi-agency protection. It's kind of like your transnational hybrid network layer. Then we have layer 7, which is the eugenics transhumanist layer. Guys, go, if you got the stomach for it, go on the DOJ website like I've been doing, go to the Epstein file database and type in DNA, eugenics. A lot of weird stuff's going to be popping up about that. So what I suspect is Epstein did want to have like 50 or 100 concubines, like young women that would like carry his seed, and maybe these other billionaires, he could bring them in and be like, look, you pay into this thing and I can make sure your seed spreads far and wide. Like I'll give you 1,500, you know, ways to pass your seed along instead of like your wife and your kids, you know what I mean? Like, let's play around with DNA. Let's play around with transhumanism. Let's mess around with the gene pool and eugenics, which, side note, Hitler was totally into eugenics too. So I do think eugenics is demonic, but that's just kind of my opinion. Moving beyond the eugenics transhumanist layer, we have layer 8, and that's the occult ritualistic stuff I was talking about, guys. I do suspect they are, and so this is all kind of unverified, but it's the next logical step in this diabolic journey is to realize that they're also doing occult rituals. You know, they're doing child sacrifice to Moloch, you guys. You can look, I mean, that's a tale as old as time, that Moloch wanted, you know, children. Sometimes in the Old Testament, it was like people's own children were being sacrificed. You know, they were sacrificing their own children to Moloch. So like that's like a tale as old as time, that they're doing something for Satan and his minions. And then, guys, at the core of it is, you know, the evil one, the father of lies, Satan. But he's also referred to 3 times in the book of John by Jesus as the ruler of the world. Okay, the prince of the power of the air. He has a very temporary rule over the world. And, you know, a few bright things that have kind of come to my attention in this dark study has been that if Satan and the demons are real, well, that is confirmation that God is real. Another bright spot is, at least we're coming to consensus, guys. Like, I would have said all this, 5-10 years ago, if you had asked me, I would have said, yeah, your country's run by a cabal, elite cabal of preteen blood-drinking pedophiles that were, like, doing adrenochrome and sacrificing to Moloch. Like, I sounded like a nutbag to my family and friends 5-10 years ago for saying that, but now we're all starting to reach consensus. You know, I was really losing my mind in, like, 2018, 2019, 2020, when I first started coming around to these ideas, and nobody else was on board with me. Like, you had to dig to the deepest, darkest recesses of like BitChute and Substack and Rumble and Alex Jones to kind of get that perspective. But now it's bleeding out into the mainstream. Now, I would give Alex Jones a little bit more credit for tipping me off to this story, but he's also trying to cover for Trump, it appears. So, you know, you talk to like Tucker Carlson, he wants to focus on Bill Gates and Bill Clinton, but then you talk to somebody on the left and they want to focus on Trump. You know, guys, I've never been too political in this channel, and frankly, I'm not that political of a person, so this isn't hard for me, okay? Bill Clinton, probably a pedophile, kid diddler, preteen blood drinking, adrenochrome user. Trump, yeah, guilty of the same thing, you know? I don't get caught up in the tinfoil meta layer where we can't really come to consensus, and as long as it's the other side of the political spectrum, I got a story for you. But if it's my side, I'm not going to say anything. No, I see both sides. I see it all, man, and it's freaking disgusting. So we need to kind of come to consensus on the tinfoil meta layer, which is like the noise that's drowning out the signal. Then we need to peel back the first layer, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, all these layers we've been talking about. and get to the core of it, which, yeah, is Satan and his minions, you guys. So it's really kind of what you got going on, you know. It's confirmation for me that I have been over the target. It's good to see the normies coming to consensus about it. We're all kind of getting on the same page about it. That is kind of giving me peace. Finding that the truth is finally coming to the light, that's kind of giving me peace. So there are some bright spots in all this madness, guys, but, you know, stay attached to that true vine. Remember the master who you serve, the man upstairs. You can't serve two masters, so make sure you're serving the right one, and make sure you're staying attached to the true vine and letting the gardener come and you know, prune your branches and make you a holy, righteous, clean soul. You know, you don't want to be stuck in the ways of the world, guys. Don't let the cares of the world choke the word, and don't be of this world, you guys. That'd be another thing. Like, I'm in this world, but I'm not of this world. Okay, I ain't taking responsibility for that. I ain't signing off on that. That ain't me. You know, something about these billionaires, you know, you reach a net worth of $1 billion, you start diddling kids or something, like, you know, wild work, guys. But remember, Satan, when he got kicked out of heaven in the fall with the 1/3 of the angels that got kicked out of heaven, they were not sent down to hell. They were sent down into the earth. And if you look in the book of Job, when God says to Satan, you know, Satan, where you been? He says, I've been walking up and down, to and fro through the earth. And when you look at 2 Peter, and it talks about Satan stalking like a roaring lion, seeking those whom he may devour. You know, Satan's in this world, you guys. He's the prince of the powers of the air. He's the god of this age. But thankfully, his rule is very temporary. He will be judged. Thankfully, these lies cannot be suppressed forever, and the truth is coming to the surface, and that does give me some semblance of peace, you guys. So it's been very dark for me. I've stared into the abyss the last few days reading these files, and the abyss starts to stare back into me. You know, a couple things, though, I could bring up, you know, in my studies. Looks like Bill Gates was trying to procure antibiotics to unknowingly give to his wife, Melinda, so that she wouldn't contract the STD that he got from Russian hookers. Now, if he's willing to unknowingly slip his wife medication, what do you think is in that vaccine, guys? Just putting that out there, just throwing that out there, to start to reassess everything. What do you think he's doing in world health if he can't even be trusted with his own wife? You know, something to think about. But we also have stories of like tunnels, guys. If you got the stomach for it, go on the DOJ website, check out the database and type in tunnels. So looks like there's a tunnel network under there, okay? There's also victim statements corroborating this, where the victims were blindfolded, taken down into the tunnels, put in containers, and if they performed well, they could be taken upstairs to be Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend. Otherwise, they'd be kept down in the dark with the other little girls. And then there's emails talking about the tunnels, renovating the tunnels, dimensions of the tunnels. There's one where the property manager is asking Jeffrey Epstein, what do you want me to do with the containers? We can resell them. So we like bought them for $1,800. We can resell them for $500. Do you want me to do that? And Epstein's like, no, just get rid of them. Like, just get rid of the containers, you know? So a lot of things being covered up, you guys. But I do suspect, you know, in the coming days and weeks, we're going to start getting videos in the mainstream about the tunnel networks. I'd like to be the first to bring that to your attention, because I stumbled on that last night, tunnels. I found some other weird, you know, unverified claims that some of these victims, some of these young girls that were R-worded, were also murdered and are buried at the back nine on Mar-a-Lago. So, you know, Trump's hands are in this, Clinton, like wherever you want to look, like your guy that you would put your faith in. Yeah, how's that looking now, you know? But that's also vindicating for me, because the Bible said, don't put your faith in the things of this world. You will be sorely let down every time. And I don't do that anymore, guys. I already had my moment of awakening, okay? All this stuff is pretty gnarly and surprising, but part of me is like, yeah, and I bet it's worse. This is only what they're telling us, so it's got to be a lot. In my opinion, it's a lot worse, and this is only the tip of the iceberg. If you can dream it up, think about it, you know, make it up in your head, I bet it's even worse than that, because these diabolical servants of Satan, you know, they're capable of way more than you or I could even imagine. Like they're like, take whatever you thought and make it way worse and way more complicated. But it's kind of the framework that I've been working with on this, you guys. And you know, pizza, hot dogs, You know, I've never emailed my friends talking about how good pizza tastes. And these emails, a lot of talk about pizza and grape soda for billionaires that would probably be eating sushi and caviar. You know what I mean? So your bullshit meter should be going off. Mine's like, but I also suspect it's a lot worse than even I could imagine. So time will tell. Thank God the truth is coming to light. And we're just going to see how deep the rabbit hole goes. But I did want to come out here, give you guys my framework for this nonsense, and you know, give you my hot take on it. But I hope this video finds you doing well. Thanks for hanging out with me. In the coming days, we'll get back on track with markets and what's going on with like the metals, crypto, dollar. You know, we'll get back into really what the backbone of the channel is all about. But I did want to give you guys my, you know, framework for what I think is going on with this. So thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you've been doing well. Like, subscribe, comment, share, whatever. You guys are awesome. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And, you know, also let me know a conspiracy theory that hasn't come true in the last 10 years in the comments too. And I'll wait, because it looks like all the conspiracies are coming true, you guys. And it's a lot worse than we could have ever imagined. So, you know, go with God, okay? Go with God, because Satan and the demons are certainly exposing themselves. And if they're real, well, the good news is God's real. And I want you guys to go with God, okay? That's all I got for right now. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hope you got something out of this. Till next time.